want to welcome you to the Town Board meeting of February 17th. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
John Basie, First Ward.
Carlos, Second Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Joseph Lepore, Fifth Ward.
Ann Shershen, Sixth Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, attorney for the town.
Okay, we have a few public hearings on our agenda tonight. The first one, however, is going to be adjourned to 3:16. I don't think there's anybody here that didn't get that notification, was here to speak to that public hearing. If so, let me know. But otherwise, we're going to adjourn that to 3:16. So I'd like to make a motion, open public hearing number 2, unsafe building, 51 Vassar Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Our Deputy Building Inspector Wayne Seashon is here tonight to update us on this building and the work he's been doing to try to remedy the situation. Yes.
See, yeah.
It's coming up and back.
Yeah, it'll probably take a minute for that to warm up. So,
Deputy Building Inspector. Gipsy. We're here about 51 Vassar Road. As most of you probably know by now, that they've actually begun doing demolition at the site. This is a 2015 overview by Google Earth. What you're seeing on the bottom half is the site that we're talking about. It was purchased probably about, now we're going back maybe 5 or 6 years, by another party, and who was looking to develop it, hopefully be able to reutilize some of the buildings, but that was really not a good idea based on the age of the units and what they had to deal with there.
and Wayne, excuse me one minute, just to put it in perspective for those who may not know where this is. This is on Vassar Road, right across from the Stewarts. It's been a building that's been empty for years. It's been fenced off probably since summertime, and this is something Wayne spent a lot of time working on since that time.
We could go into a lot of the history in it, but it's probably really not necessary at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What you're seeing is a different type of map that kind of locates for everybody what's going on. Most of this stuff is gone, which has been a really good thing for the town. What remains, this section of the rear, this was a 4-apartment unit back here that's about 3/4 of the way down. This unit all the way at the back here, 2-bedroom house, is gone. This was a 2-family home here, was 2 separate apartments. This is gone. This was the old RDS facility, had some spaces in there. This is now down and gone. So what remains is a little 1-story piece right here, and then a 2-story structure above. Vassar Road's out here at the front left side of this. So as of the 5th of January this year, this is what we were looking at. Obviously, this was not one that was really in a good mind to be repaired versus demolition. It really needed to be demoed. There was asbestos found in it. They did take out the proper permit up at the Department of Labor for that. It's moved along. They have come to a standstill up to this point. So right now, he can't really do much more with this front building, and I'll explain to you as we get there. These are just how it was just last month, these places. Now, what you're seeing with the windows being gone, doorways being gone, glass being gone, was part of the asbestos abatement that had to go on there. And again, this was all done and tested. We've got clean reports out of all of this except for one area. All of this is now gone. as of the 11th, that's what that rear two-bedroom, single-family home looked like. This is where the two-family structure was. And obviously, as you can tell, they're not quite done, but the buildings are basically gone. That's where the old RDS building was. They began the other day doing this part right here, the 4-apartment structure. They've been doing demolition on that. I cautioned them that this wall right here that you see, that they really needed to leave that alone because that was the structural integrity of this building, the foundation system and support system for it. And this is an area of concern still for the Department of Labor. So as of yesterday, this is what the site looks like. And they've been doing, I mean, these guys have been right at it pretty much right along since they got started when we released those permits. Now we're getting to the area of concern. As you see on the right-hand side in red, that's the area, that's that one-story area that, according to the asbestos inspector, still contains some remnants of materials that are asbestos-containing materials. This is the area that he's concerned with. All the joint work that you see back over here and up on the top. In a previous report, and we're going back even maybe 7 years on this in dealing with this site. A company that didn't get a contract, according to the owner, were the ones who brought this inspector back and said that they had evidence that there was asbestos-containing materials here and that it wasn't removed yet. Now, part of the issue is with them, meaning the asbestos inspector that I spoke with about the job. Because the town had taken the step to condemn the structure based on its habitability and its use, people were not allowed back in there anymore. We did not condemn it for being structurally unsound for demolition. Usually if we're going to do something like that, we'll at least contact an engineer and bring an engineer in to do an evaluation with us. So we made that clear to the inspector, the asbestos abatement inspector, that this was not being held up by the town. Now that inspector, because this is getting convoluted now, he is looking for a structural engineer that's going to say it's okay to do the demo, that the people that can go in there to do the abatement can do it without worry of being injured. What happens with this, there's 2 separate offices that handle asbestos in the Department of Labor up in Albany. One is the office that we already work with, on a regular basis, and one is another department of that same bureau, but they're the ones that have to grant a variance, and it's called a 10-day variance. And as long as you've got the correct engineering up on the front end of this with the right design plan, what can happen is they can drop the building with this variance in place. You still have to do the monitoring, you still have to do the testing, air quality, those kinds of things. But with the 10-day variance, typically what you would get is that variance to do it. 10 days from the day you file it, you should be able to start the work to demolish it. What happens is you demolish the building, you treat all of that debris that's associated with that demo as contaminated debris. And it has to be handled in a certain manner. And this is really, it's intense. It's a fairly substantial cost to do the variance procedure. Because it isn't just as easy as somebody taping off the windows, sealing doors, making separate entryways, and doing the air quality monitoring to take down things that are already contained. You're exposing it to the outside air. You have to be very careful about that, how it's handled when it's out there, how it's transported from there. All of these things come much more into the play of this thing. So that's pretty much what I've got for you. And the reason that I'm really here to talk about this is because we've sat on this with the owner, and I can't tell you exactly why he has not done more things faster. We've had number orders on this property for years now. And we're really at the point that even though these buildings are being dropped, that the rest of this needs to continue. They need to get this done in whichever way it has to go. We're not here to pass a judgment on which way it needs to go. I'm just here to say, we can't stop now. We shouldn't stop now. Anybody have any question?
Yeah, I have a question, Wayne. If you go back to the facade of the building where you draw the red line on the window, if there's asbestos exposed, why wasn't that window covered to contain the asbestos internally versus, with the wind? And second thing is, I didn't see any sign to say asbestos area, do not enter, and things of that nature. Is that something that we have to do, or as a?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Let me explain. What goes on what happened was this. They did that. When they came in with their permit, that was one of the things that I checked first when they were on site. I came in and actually documented their documents so that we know that we have them in our file that shows that they're doing the right thing. What happens is they seal this off, and then they go in protected outfits and breathing apparatus. They go into the structure. They go to the places where it's been identified that there's asbestos-containing material, and they do demolition, specific demolition on the areas that's containing the contaminated material. With that part being said, their laboratory, which is a New York State certified laboratory that gave us the test results on this, came back and said that there was no more contamination. Now, this is where it gets a little convoluted in the first step. The company that didn't get the first contract called the Labor Department and said, oh, we got a test from before these guys went in, and we showed contamination there. So that asbestos inspector is running with that. So once they demo an area like that and they take it all and they get the all clear from the lab that there's no more contamination, they take down all their plastic. They take all the stuff has already been bagged and removed. So they get a clean whistle here. And we can't let them go until I receive a report that says that this is all clear. I don't need all the rest of the information, even though it's part of the file. I'm looking for that.
Who gives you the report, from Albany?
It's from the testing laboratory.
Okay.
Okay, the one that's certified by the Labor Department.
Gotcha.
So, and the reason that you don't see it now is because that area was supposedly decontaminated up until the point that this other company made a claim with.
And in the backyard, I noticed there was an oil tank there back there
Yes.
somewhere. Is that empty though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we checked that before we ever let them do the demo back there.
Great presentation, Wayne. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the board?
So have they hired the structural engineer yet to do this? Is he dragging his feet on that, or?
He gave me a name of a gentleman, and actually I know him. I've worked with him before, and I did have the chance to meet with him and talk with him about the project, and he said that they were going to have to work some things out. I can't tell you what that meant. I didn't pry. I didn't think that was my position for that, but at least there was some type of communication with that person.
So if he gets moving, he could actually get done within the 30 days to 60 days we have here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is there anyone in the audience who is here to speak to this public hearing? All right, anything else from the board?
Good job, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne. I make a motion to close public hearing number 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Whereas by Resolution 120, number 13 of 2016, adopted on January 20th, 2016, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has determined that the premises and the buildings located at 51 Vassar Road, Poughkeepsie, County Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 6260-04 565-213, owned by Oak Mill Plaza LLC, are dangerous, unsafe, and dilapidated, and an imminent threat to the general public. And whereas the Town Board has adopted the Building Department's unsafe building report regarding the premises and directed the issuance of an order and notice requiring the demolition or repair of the premises and the setting of a public hearing regarding the order and notice. And whereas said order and notice of a public hearing has been served and posted, which order included a direction that required work begin immediately and must be commenced no later than 30 days from the service of the order and notice and be completed no later than 60 days thereafter. And gave further notice that on failure to timely comply The town board is authorized to repair or demolition and remove the building and assess the expense thereof against the premise as a special ad valorem levy under Town Law Article 15, and to institute a proceeding to collect the expenses of such work. And whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has in order of notice reserved its right to proceed more rapidly with the remediation of this site if it was required pursuant to Town Code 71-12. And whereas the legal notice of public hearing was posted on January 16, 2016, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 2nd, 2016, where said public hearing has been held this day, now therefore be resolved that in the event that the owner has not timely commenced or completed the repair or demolition, the town board of Town of Poughkeepsie authorizes and directs the building department to demolish and remove the buildings by town employees or by a responsible contractor making the lowest price proposal to the town consistent with Town Code 71-10. And now to thereafter assess that against the premises and levy and collect the expenses of same as provided in Article 15 of the town law for levy and collection of a special ad valorem levy, and be further resolved that this work is an enforcement proceeding and therefore is a type 2 action which is exempt from environmental review under 6 NYCCR 617.5 C29. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Good job as usual. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 3, amend Town Code Chapters 159 and 171.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is basically just a change in the code in terms of how to handle solid waste for zoning as opposed to planning, make it zoning administrator's job a little easier, I think. Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Anything from the town board? Seeing no one, to make a motion to close public hearing number 3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bill?
Be it enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on the 17th day of February 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend the Town Code, Chapter 159, entitled Property Maintenance, specifically Section 159-4E, and Chapter 171, entitled Solid Waste, and be it further enacted that the amendments are attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments, and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they had in fact been read verbatim. And be it further enacted that the Town Board has previously declared its intent to act as lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and does declare the said action to be a Type 2 action. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on February 4th, 2016, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 6, 2016. Be it further enacted that the town clerk notify the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to General Municipal Law 239 sub NN, and be it further enacted that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 3, property maintenance at 17 Valino Drive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Mr. Armstrong?
If not out of order, I would like to, as you know, I'm not particularly happy about the fact that we pay for these maintenance property costs and then hopefully get reimbursed somewhere down the line. Recently in the Poughkeepsie Journal, there was an article about another organization that put a piece in the paper about this same subject with the problem that they're having with it. And what it was saying, of course, with the same comments or complaints, I guess, that we have, how it has, where the house has become downtrodden, derelict, and disheveled, and of course affects the property value of other places. To make this shorter from the comments, what this organization is trying to do is to pass legislation to require the banks to post a $10,000 bond on each foreclosure or vacant property if the property is neglected. The organization can use these funds to manage the property so that it doesn't become a larger blight on the community. And the reason I brought up is because some of the comments that I've had about we're putting the towns and taxpayers' money out there to maintain these properties, that probably the majority of them are owned by the banks. And I know years ago, the banks used to pay for these properties to be maintained, at least outside anyway. And somewhere along the line, it was changed that now we're doing it and waiting for who knows how long to get that money back when these properties are taken care of, sold, or whatever happens. And I guess this made me think, maybe we should look into something like that to try to renegotiate again with these banks, or not renegotiate, but pass legislation or somehow for these banks to put this money up to take care of these places and pay for these contractors that we're paying for to keep these properties looking halfway decent and getting rid of the vandalizing them and the drug people that run into these places. We've known and heard of a lot of things that have been happening in some of these places, and the safety of them. So I would ask you to see if you look into something to try to get this animal off the town taxpayers' back.
I know, and I agree. I think a number of years back there was legislation in Albany, and Jim, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but legislation in Albany that Albany's tried to hold these banks more accountable, and I think that's where the legislation needs to take place. And we passed a resolution some years back supporting legislation they were looking at that time, and it wasn't exactly what you're referring to here, but I would agree that we would support that type of legislation. My view, which I've shared with you, but in case people are watching or here that don't know, every community deals with these problems differently. Some ignore them and let the houses just overrun, and we've chosen to be proactive. And our zone administrator would tell you, even though it seems like a lot that we have to take care of, it's not. There are banks out there and mortgage companies that do maintain their properties, well, and we never have to interact with them. Probably more so that take care of them than no, actually, and I don't know if Sarah's sitting behind you, but I know we have a number of vacant properties in the town, and we don't have to act on as many of them as you might think. So the town does get reimbursed. The way it's set up with the town as opposed to a city setting is we don't ever take these properties. We don't have to try to sell them. Once the taxes are delinquent, we turn it over to the county. The county makes us whole on it, and then the county sells the property and pays the liens and pays
I understand all that. You made mention to those facts before.
Yep.
And I think Senator Gibson
Yes.
was probably doing something about this not too long ago. I don't know where that's gone. You don't hear any more about it. I just think it's something that shouldn't be on our shoulders. And it should be taken care of by the people that own these properties, whether it be the banks or the individuals or these people that live out of the area and have these places for rent, and they just let them go.
Yeah, I understand,
It's a shame that it's happening, but I think
maybe
something should be looked into again.
I agree. And the funny thing is now, not really funny, but the strange situation is when I first joined the board and some other board members, 12, 14 years ago, believe it or not, those who remember back then, we never had these issues. It's just strictly a sign of the economy, and that, probably the last 5 years we've had to deal with these vacant properties, and it's too bad, but it is just a complete reflection of the economy.
Like I said, I don't see why we should. We don't own them. It's not our responsibility. The banks.
Yeah.
These lending institutions. I mean, something's got to be done to make them take their responsibility. They gave these people money to buy these houses. They knew they couldn't have them, couldn't pay it back, and look where we're at.
Yeah, I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sarah, I know you're sitting there patiently, so why don't you come on up? Give us the details. Anything you want us to know about this property? Is it debris? Is it long grass? What are we dealing with?
Debris.
Okay, you guys have some pictures?
There is a maintenance company, the bank is not.
Okay, hey, do me a favor. Right, just hand it out. I just need to get you on the microphone.
Thank you.
It's not too bad.
So those pictures are not today. I did not go today. I did a drive-by. It's exactly the same.
Okay.
A lot of debris in the driveway, broken
My concern is
tables.
the
and-
appliance as well.
Yeah, okay.
And this property is empty?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the one next to it and the one down the street.
Questions?
It's pretty clear.
Anything else, Sarah? Anybody else wish to speak to this public hearing? I see no one. I make a motion to close public hearing number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on February 17th, 2016, at 7 p.m., Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code entitled Property Maintenance. Hereby determined that said property located at 17 Valino Drive, Town of Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 616003467335, owned by David and Louisa Shen, is in violation of Chapter 159, and be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on February 4th, 2016, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 6, 2016. And be it further resolved that said determination is based on the presentation and report submitted at the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator. And be it further resolved that the said owner of 17 Valino Drive has not complied with the order to remedy. And be it further resolved that the town shall cause the removal of all solid waste, debris, and litter, and any continued maintenance thereafter if the premises continue to not be properly maintained. And be it further resolved that the said charges shall be sent to the registered owners of said property for reimbursement. And be it further resolved, if said costs and disbursements are not reimbursed within 30 days of the bill, said charges shall be added to the next state, county, and town tax bill pursuant to the provisions of Section 159.13 of the Town Code. It shall become a lien against the property and filed with the Dutchess County Clerk and Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance. And be it further resolved that the Highway Department or an appointed contractor is authorized to remove and continue to remove all solid waste, debris, and litter. So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 5, property maintenance at 413 Vassar Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? All right, Sarah, do you have any photographs?
Thank you.
This is the one we discussed that has household
Yeah, this is
garbage.
the one that I authorized,
Yeah.
the emergency cleanup. Most of it was raw garbage. It's been in there over a month. And with the temperatures we've been having, it was attracting rodents and animals.
So there's all kinds of bags of garbage and
About 20.
I don't know what else, but, all right. And the house is empty, of course.
Yeah, this house is empty, okay.
Any questions? All right. I'm here to speak to this public hearing. I make a motion to close public hearing number 5.
Second.
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Joe?
Resolution number 5, be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, persuade to a public hearing held on February 17th, 2016, at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, entitled Property Maintenance, does hereby determine that said property located at 413 Vassar Road, Town of Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 6259-01-074515, owned by Shane and Julia Conklin, is in violation of Chapter 159, and be further resolved that the legal notice of a public hearing was posted on February 4th, 2016, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 6th, 2016, and be further resolved that this determination is based on the presentation and report submitted to the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator, and be further resolved that said the owner of 413 Vassar Road has not complied with orders and remedy, and be further resolved that the town shall cause the removal of all the garden wasted, fallen trees, limbs, and shall cut and continue to cut the grass to the height not to exceed 6 inches, and remove all solid waste, debris, litter, and continue maintenance thereafter if the premises continue not to be properly maintained. And be further resolved that the charges will send to registered owners of the said property for reimbursement, and be further resolved that if said cost and the spirit are not reimbursed within the 30 days of the bill, said charges shall be added to the next state, county, and town tax bill pursuant to a provision of section 159-13 of the town code, and shall become a lien against the property and filed the Dutchess County Clerk and the Dutchess County Commissioner of Finance. And be further resolved that the Highway Department or any appointed contract is authorized to cut and continue to cut the grass to the height not to exceed 6 inches and to remove and continue to remove all the garden waste and fallen tree limbs, solid waste, debris, and litter. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we have 2 more. My goodness, we have a lot of public hearings tonight. All right, I make a motion to open public hearing number 6, amend Chapter 195, Panessa Drive. This is we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
This is basically for some stop signs on Panessa and Sutton Park Road. Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Yes, sir. Yeah, come on up, as long as you don't fight over the mics, take turns.
All right, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, thank you. My name's PJ Darcy, I live at 40 Sutton Park Road. Bunch of neighbors here. So, we have been talking with Councilman Carlos about the traffic on Sutton Park Road. He helped do an investigation into the sightlines at Panessa Drive. There's a lot of traffic that comes up and down Sutton Park Road. It's the only outlet for the upper area out Sutton Park. There's and to Panessa. So you're either going to exit that top neighborhood by coming through Sutton Park and exiting off of near J, or exiting back on Panessa. And with all that traffic and the difficulty in sightlines at Panessa, we thought that it would be really good to have a stop sign there. Especially, in addition, there are a lot of cars that travel at high rates of speed on that road, which makes it even more unsafe with the sightlines. And we really appreciate all the work that Councilman Carlos has done and Sergeant Jaika have done to research this. We would actually request that you continue the investigation because there's also still high traffic down at Jerry, and we believe that there's possibility for sightlines there. So, investigation probably of putting some stop signs down at Jerry Road.
Okay.
We get a lot of traffic, and so a child was hit earlier, or mid last year, maybe last fall. It wasn't speed related, but there was, and it wasn't the driver who was at fault. But these, like we said, this sight line is definitely something that we're concerned about. There's a lot of children who live in the area, and we don't want to see anything bad happen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Wall. I live right on the corner of Panessa and Sutton Park. Where the child was hit, to go a little bit further on that, the stop sign where we want to put right there on that corner, not that it would have prevented it, but possibly because you would have been slowing down for that sign. The traffic is horrendous. This is something that we've kind of been asking for a while. It's going to go right in front of my house. Not only do I approve of it, it needs to be done for the children in the neighborhood. My kids are grown, but there's a lot of little kids there, and it's very, very dangerous. And I think all of us would love to see that happen, and maybe even look, like you say, do an investigation. Another one somewhere else on on Sutton Park probably wouldn't hurt. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Just repeat.
My name is Anthony Castrino. I've been a resident on Sutton Park Road for 40 years. I've seen the difference. I have a little one. She's 6 years old. The traffic is unbelievable. My daughter's not even allowed out in the front yard. I have to keep her in the backyard because we have so much traffic. I would be greatly appreciative if we can also get one on Jerry Road and Panessa, and it's just a lot of traffic in our area now.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Ladies, I think you're up.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jeanette Wall. I own 52 Sutton Park. I'm amazed that cars don't come through my backyard because when they're coming down the hill, they're doing 40, 50 miles an hour, and they make a left turn into Vanessa, and my house is right there. I'm amazed. The kid almost hit my tree. He landed on my front lawn. We really need something. Something. This is going on, what, 20 years? Yeah. 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one quick thing.
Sure, come on up, yep.
On Sutton Park Road, within the last month and a half, 7 Sutton Park Road, we had a car go through the lawn and almost through the front of their living room again for the 3rd time.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak to this public hearing? All right, seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 6.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ann?
Okay. Be enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to the public hearing held on the 17th day of February 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend Town Code Chapter 195 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, specifically 195-45, Schedule 10, Yield Intersections, which amendment should be as follows. Repeal from 195-45, Schedule 10, Yield Intersections, Yield Sign at Bananas Drive, Direction of Travel South at intersection with Sultan Park Road, and specifically 195-44, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections, add 195-44, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections, Stop Sign at Sun Park Road, Direction of Travel, both at the intersection of Bananas Drive and Bananas Drive South Sutton Park Road. Be further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on February 4th, 2016, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 6, 2016, and be further enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does determine this action is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be further enacted that said local law shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 7, amend Chapter 195 Carmen Drive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Seeing no one, I make a motion resume, or to close public hearing number 7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Being enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on the 17th day of February 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend Town Code Chapter 195 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to replace certain Carmen Drive yield signs with stop signs, specifically Section 195-45, Schedule 10, yield intersections, which amendment would be as follows. Repeal from Section 195-45, Schedule 10, yield intersections, yield sign on Carmen Drive, direction of travel east, at intersection of Carmen Drive Circle, yield sign on Kinnery Road, direction of travel north at the intersection of Carmen Drive. Yield sign on Manetti Drive, direction of travel west at intersection of Carmen Drive. And specifically Section 195-44, Schedule 9, stop intersections, which amendment would be as follows. Add Section 195-44, Schedule 9, stop intersections. Stop sign on Carmen Drive, direction of travel east at the intersection of Carmen Drive, the Circle. Stop intersection on Kinnery Road, direction of travel north at the intersection of Carmen Drive. Stop sign on Manetti Drive, direction of travel west at the intersection of Carmen Drive. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on February 4, 2016 and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 6, 2016. And be it further enacted that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby determine that this is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further enacted that said local law shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This project started in the early part of last year. Several families in one particular area called me and were very concerned about a child almost being hit. It's the same kind of problem we have in other parts in the town. These are yield signs. Traffic patterns are something that people, it becomes the way they drive through that area if they go every day. We have an elementary school there, so 2 times during the day, you have a high volume of passenger car traffic, not counting the school buses. The yield signs did absolutely nothing. So working with Sergeant Jitka and the traffic division, we put up some speed signs. We still need to change the yield signs to stop signs. And what I'd like to do for these stop signs and the stop signs in the last resolution was have the traffic department paint the stop lines. We used to do that. I don't know why we've stopped doing that. Because of the way that section of law reads, where you place that stop line is where the motorist must stop. We have problems with sight lines for stop signs because they're placed wrong. But I'll work with Sergeant Jitka and get that done. There's no one here tonight. I had several phone calls. They all have little children, and they have to be home. So I appreciate my fellow board members' support in passing this resolution.
Anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And that now brings us to the end of our public hearings. So what I'm going to do at this point is go through the agenda, and then we'll take questions on agenda items only at this time. Agenda item number 8 is to approve the permanent appointment of Keith Ballard as our water superintendent and Edward Losey as water maintenance supervisor. 9 is to retain Hudson Valley Appraisal Corp. for an appraisal of Stop and Shop. It's in relation to a tax cert. 10 is to set a public hearing date to amend Town Code Chapter 105-4 fee schedule, Chapter 148 Parks and Recreation. This is some of our fees for our parks that we're adjusting to, I think, more adequately cover the expense. 11 is to authorize the clerk to advertise for bids. This is for an upgrade at the Arlington Wastewater Treatment Plant. We've literally discussed this probably for the last 12 to 14 years. We're finally going to go out to bid on that. 12 and 13, we're going to adjourn both of those. 12 is going to be adjourned to the meeting, the first meeting in March, 3/2, and 13 we're going to adjourn to a meeting on 4/6. We need more information for each. 14 is to ratify supervisor's signature on the county stop DWI agreement. 15 is to authorize execution of an IBM sewer agreement, one of the things we were working on that we needed to get in place before we went out to bid for the wastewater treatment plant work. This is easement that we need to complete that work. 16 is to authorize the supervisor sign an engineering contract for the Arlington wastewater treatment plant. This is a contract that it's been in the map plan report literally for a decade, but we've been fortunate enough to get EFC financing for this project, which means a lot to the town because it's a big savings. EFC financing will allow us to finance this project at the initial stages. It almost works like a home equity. We draw down on our financing as we're completing the project. Our financing for the first half of what we're going to need, which we estimate at approximately $5.9 million, will be at 0% during the drawdown stage, and 0.43% for the remaining monies. And then once we term out the full amount, we're going to have a rate of, we get a 50% subsidy, so we're going to get a rate of 1.9% for the project, which it's a lot of work getting the EFC finance because there's a lot of hoops we have to jump through. This is one of them. All these, technically, we have to have a contract with the engineers, with the bonding agent, with our financial advisor. It's to satisfy EFC requirements. So that's why that's on there, and that's what we're doing. We've got two special consents. Special consent number one is to approve the permanent appointment of Franco Zani as wastewater collection system supervisor, and SC2 is to approve a 30-day liquor license waiver for Island Empress Cuisine at 737 Main Street. So I'd like to suspend the rules for public comment on agenda items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Doreen?
A question about the EFC financing. Will that money be in place before any bills are, any charges or bills are incurred? Because I know with the water plant, there were some late fees, and it was my understanding that that was because the money hadn't yet come in from the EFC loan?
No, we're going to be fine. We've already incurred expenses and we've paid them. We have money we can pay. We have a fund balance. We have a fund balance in our water and sewer funds. So we've incurred expenses to get to this point. Just to get to the bid, it's a lot of work. So there won't be a similar issue that you're speaking of with this.
Right. And then my other question was about number 9, the Hudson Valley Appraisal Corp. It's sort of a two-pronged question here. Is this a new firm that you're using? And if so, why the switch?
I don't know if it's a new firm. In the past, we've used.
We've used Don McGrath.
Right.
I think we've also used Hudson Valley Appraisal. I'm not sure if we've used a third firm.
Okay, I remembered.
I don't. The name sounds somewhat familiar.
But not this one, okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, and then the other part of that is, so Stop and Shop is looking to have the assessment lowered for both of their properties in the town. Would that be 44 and on Route 9?
I believe this is, I think it's just South Road.
Okay, just South Road?
But, yes, I believe so. I can verify that if you want to call tomorrow, but I think it's just South Road. And, this is one of the things where these tax certs are a headache for everybody, but this is an instance where I talked about, I think it was just last week, how, these things are a negotiated settlement. Well, we aren't able to get to a negotiated settlement, at least at this point. So we're going a step further. We're going to spend money on an appraisal. We don't just cave on, not that anybody suggested that, but, we do work to try to come to the best solution we can on these, but this is one where we're going to have to go to the next step.
Well, sometimes you need to.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Doreen. Anyone else? I see no one. I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Whereas Keith R. Ballard, by Resolution 35, Number 9 of 2014, was granted a provisional appointment to the position of Water Superintendent, now therefore be it resolved the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Keith Ballard as permanent Water Superintendent pursuant to the notice from the Dutchess County Department of Personnel of his successful results from the Civil Service exam, subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per Civil Service law. Commencing with the date of the adoption of this resolution, be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has authorized the permanent appointment of Edward Losey to the position of Water Maintenance Supervisor, which promotion was contingent upon Mr. Ballard's successful results on the Civil Service examination, subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 or more than 26 weeks per Civil Service law, commencing with the date of the adoption of this resolution. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I want to congratulate Keith. He scored a 95 on his exam, and he's happy about that. Mr. Losey's also happy about that because he gets his promotion becomes permanent. So Keith had a lot of pressure on him, but what this will allow us to do, this is a change in title for these gentlemen, no budget change for the town's budget, but it'll give us much better succession line in our water department and management, level. So this is, I think, good for the town, and both of these gentlemen deserve this. So I think it's a good thing. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution number 9, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie finds that it is in the best interest of the town to retain Hudson Valley Appraisal Corporation, HVAC, for appraisal services for the Town of Poughkeepsie for the tax certiorari proceeding instituted by the Stop and Shop Companies, Inc., against the town for the assessment rolls for the years 2012 through 2016. Without using an RFP, such retention to be in accordance with the fee appraisal quote dated January 14, 2016, and that Kyle W. Barnett, Esquire, Vanderwater and Vanderwater, LLP, and/or Kathleen D. Tabor, Town Assessor, are authorized to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate the retention. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby set the second day of March 2016 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 105, entitled Fees, specifically 105-4M, entitled Chapter 148, Parks and Recreation. Be it further resolved that the proposed amendments are attached here to and incorporated herein, that the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that said proposed amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim. And be it further resolved that the aforesaid action is a type 2 action requiring no secret review. And be it further resolved that the said amendments, if adopted, will take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Joe?
Resolution 11, be resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby authorize the Town Clerk to advertise for bids for Arlington wastewater treatment plant upgrade, straight to plans and specification which will be available on February 29, 2016, in the office of the Town Clerk, with the bid opening to be held on April 15, 2016, at 11 a.m. And be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby reserve the right to accept or reject all bids, whole or part, and be further resolved that the Town Board does hereby determine that this action is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I just wanted to say one thing. We'll, hearing more about this project as we go through the process. When we get the bids in, hopefully the bids won't, you make estimations as to what you think the costs are going to be, and this is a big job for the town, but it's an important job. It's going to bring a 40-year-old sewer plant up to, modern day standards. And in addition to that, it'll give us 1 million gallons more of flow a day. So not only are we taking care of our infrastructure, but we're planning for the future. So I think it's a good move for the town. I want to commend the Town Board for the willingness to take this on. We're going to, we've already gotten the EFC financing, which I said, which is going to make, now's the time to finance a project like this. The permanent financing, even we estimate it's going to be less than 2%. And I think we're positioned well for this project. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay.
And
And we're adjourning 12 and
13.
13.
Yep.
Okay. Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby ratify the supervisor's signature of the 2016 Stop DWI Program Drug Recognition Expert Amendment and the extension agreement with the with the County of Dutchess, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Number 15, be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor and the Town Board members to sign a second amendment to the sewer line easement and grant of temporary grading easement and any supporting and recording documents in substantially the form presented between the Town of Poughkeepsie and International Business Machines Corporation, and be it further resolved that such authorization by the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is subject to the approval of all final documents by the attorney for the town engineer, and the director of municipal development for the Town of Poughkeepsie, and be further resolved that the opening Extension and repair of this sewer connection is a type 2 action requiring no seeker review. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Morris Associates for engineering inspection services for Arlington wastewater treatment plant upgrade in substantially the form submitted, subject to such revisions as are required by the town supervisor after consultation with the attorney to the town. Such contract to be at an hourly rates proposed with a total cost not to exceed $822,921. Be it further resolved, the Town Board finds that it would be not in the best interest of the town to solicit alternative proposals. Be it further resolved, the secret review for the Arlington wastewater treatment plant upgrade has been completed. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is the project we talked about before.
This is the-
And this has been, the portion of this has been set for, gotta be
Yeah, it's
10
not,
years.
it's not anything new. We've worked on this. Fortunately, we're finally moving it forward, and this board, myself, we feel projects like this are important for not only current, our future, or our current residents, but future residents as well. So yes, this is something that's been in place for quite a while, no changes. This is part of the financing. We have to have these technical contracts in place. So it's kind of a hoop we have to jump through for them. We did this with our bonding attorney and our financial advisor as well. So that's all part of that. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Mike?
Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit. 1, approve permanent appointment, Frank Ozani as Water Waste Collection System Supervisor. And 2, approve a 30-day liquor license waiver for Island Empress Cuisine. Be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the Town Board, an item may be removed from the list and voted separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Joe?
Yep. Whereas Frank Ozani has served as wastewater collection system supervisor since May 1st, 2013, now thereafter, be resolved that based on the notice from Dutchess County Department of Personnel on a successful result of the civil service exam, the Town Board, the Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby appoint Frank Ozani as permanent wastewater collection system supervisor, subject to a probation period of no less than 8, no more than 26 weeks per civil service law, commencing with the date of adoption of this resolution. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If you remember last week, we had a couple of our other sewer department employees receive promotions. We had to wait for civil service to offer this exam. Franco took it. I don't think he's here tonight, but he passed as well with flying colors. So this will put into place some management succession and chain of command in the sewer department that's been needed for a long time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request from the Law Office of Lorenzo L. Angelo on behalf of Island Empress Cuisine, Inc., 737 Main Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of a 30-day review period for a liquor license application, and be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the Town Clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent, and pursuant to the attached request, so moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. So I'd like to make a motion to accept comments on town issues.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here who would like to address the board? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is David Cullen. I'm a long-term resident of the hamlet of New Hamburg in the town of Poughkeepsie.
and I have several comments to make this evening on the subject of the town's regulations recently passed restricting truck traffic in the hamlet of New Hamburg, and Bettini Fuel's objection to those restrictions. I'm sure that the town's attorneys do not need laypersons, and I use the term advisedly, I'll come back to it in a moment, to instruct them as to how to respond to the latest filing of Bettini Fuel's lawyers opposing the town board's past regulations. I find it personally, however, arrogant and insulting of Bettini's lawyers to suggest that affidavits of hamlet residents, those so-called laypersons they refer to, should be ignored, and instead we should rely on observations of two hired guns, so-called consulting engineers, who not surprisingly returned a verdict that they were paid to deliver, and that is there's no problem with 18-wheeler truck traffic on the streets of New Hamburg. Unfortunately, these two experts with a total of 45 years experience, unfortunately only about a day and a half of it spent in New Hamburg. And on the other side, we have those laypersons whose cumulative life experience in New Hamburg probably totals substantially more than 150 years. Living in those houses, walking those streets, driving those roadways, I would suggest to you that those laypersons have a better common sense understanding of the safety and the results of the truck traffic than two so-called experts who, again, may have spent a total of, let's say, 15 hours in our hamlet. Let's take a consulting engineer, stand him at the corner of Point Street, a narrow street with no center line, no sidewalk, when an 18-wheeler comes around the corner, and dare him not to move. Common sense and real-life experience trump hired experts who don't live in our hamlet and don't experience this level of industrial traffic, which our narrow streets were never designed to accommodate. I wonder if the Albany lawyer representing Bettini Fuels has ever set foot on a New Hamburg street, much less watch those 18-wheelers come around Main Street onto Point Street, totally taking up both lanes of a narrow two-lane street, driving off the pavement, onto lawns, knocking down mailboxes, and off the road to make the turn. To further suggest, as Bettini's lawyers have, that this is the work of one or two disgruntled newcomers to our hamlet is patently untrue. Supervisor Tancredi himself has attended a meeting of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association at the local yacht club where more than 40 people showed up. They attended to express their concern regarding the dramatically increased oil truck traffic in our hamlet. This was on a winter night and on a weeknight in a hamlet of less than 100 homes. There's a substantial majority of residents who support the town board and these regulations restricting, but only reasonably restricting, truck traffic in our hamlet. As a show of support, I would invite New Hamburg residents who are here tonight and support the town and its regulations to stand. This is not one or two disgruntled newcomers. This is the majority of our little hamlet showing you how they feel and how much they support the town and what it's doing. I'd appreciate the town taking notice of this, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Is there anyone else here to speak to the town board? Yes.
James Finnegan, New Hamburg. I just wanted a couple of issues. I understand that their experts have sent some suggestions of what to do with the streets of New Hamburg, including eliminating street parking. This, of course, would eliminate the ability of the local church to have services. So it's an anti-Christian proposal. And they also want to widen the roads when really in New Hamburg, there isn't any place to widen the roads. You'd have to condemn houses and take private property through eminent domain to widen the roads. I understand Batinis have also claimed that this is just a recent development. Are complaining about the traffic as just a recent development, but we've been complaining about the oil truck traffic for years. On the old bridge, before they built the new bridge, the Bettini trucks were always over the weight limit, and they would always go across the bridge anyway. And we asked the town numerous times over the years to put some police there and issue tickets, which the town didn't do, but we once found a state trooper that would do it, and then Bettini pulled some strings and got the state trooper reassigned to a different area. So it's not a new development of us, it's something that we've been trying to do for years, is trying to control the unsafe truck traffic in Bettini, in New Hamburg. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Doreen? We're going to have Doreen, and you can come on up next.
I just had a question. Is there any estimate yet how much has been spent on legal expenses for this?
James, would you like to answer that?
Currently, no. I mean, I have looked at numbers in the past, but I haven't looked at them recently.
Okay.
So I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I can file FOIL. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Dan Fannin, and a year ago I moved to Conklin Street in New Hamburg. I'm a boater, so I discovered New Hamburg not by land, but by way of the water. For the past 10 years, I have spent the summer sailing the length of the Hudson River and exploring the streets of its river towns. My first encounter with New Hamburg was on a warm August afternoon 2 years ago, sailing from Haverstraw to Kingston. As I pulled close to shore, I was surprised to see a handsome, still intact Hudson River village. I thought I was seeing things, and as you may know, sailors are known for seeing things, like mermaids and sea monsters. But I wasn't seeing things, because back on land I discovered a hamlet that had held its own over the years, when other river towns had not. I discovered that New Hamburg not only retains most of its 19th century architecture, but most important, it retains its sense of place as a Hudson River village. For all of us who treasure the Hudson and the gift it has been to American history, one of the sad realities is that too many of its once vibrant river towns have lost their struggle against decades of decay, industrial dominance, and water pollution. Places where patriot farmers delivered produce to feed Washington's troops during the Revolution, and where New Yorkers have made a home for almost 400 years, have lost most of what made them special. But in New Hamburg, the story is different. New Hamburg is a rare example of a Hudson River village that still looks and feels today, much like the Hudson River village of our heritage. What I ask tonight is that we see New Hamburg from the viewpoint of the river and consider that the issue of truck traffic is more than just roads on land. The wider truth is that heavy traffic on streets equals heavy traffic on the river. Every oil tanker that drives into New Hamburg is there to cart away what Bottini claims is an annual 60 to 90 million gallons of oil that arrive by tugboat and barge. What happens on land happens on the water. So it makes sense to connect the problems of the company's requested increased road traffic would have to the water side of the hamlet. I know this river because I'm fortunate to spend most of my life on it, and I regularly lecture on navigating the Hudson and Harlem rivers. A barge filled with 1.2 million gallons of oil is a very difficult beast to manage, given the Hudson's variable currents, 6-foot tides, and strong winds. Even powerful tugboats have to struggle to bring them to dock. The difficulty is that when tugs throttle forward or reverse, their enormous props create real havoc underwater. It's called prop wash, and water volume and torque can create serious disruption of a riverbed and erosion of a shoreline. Just last summer, the prop wash from a tug at the New Hamburg Depot destroyed the two 25-foot fuel docks at White's Marina. Botini response states that it is scheduled to import 30 to 40 million gallons of fuel from September 2015 through May 2016, and that each incoming barge is loaded with 1.2 million gallons of oil. Divide 40 by 1.2 and you get 33 barges, docking in New Hamburg over those 9 months. So by the company's own reckoning, that's an average of 4 barges a month, or at a minimum, 45 barges a year. That's 45 times a year when the shoreline and riverbed of New Hamburg takes a beating. 45 times when silt and debris are forced north towards the docks of the yacht club or south to White's Marina. 45 times to risk unavoidable oil spills. And 45 times when a large fleet of trucks have to haul it all away at all hours. The company also states that a barge arrives every 7 to 10 days during the winter months. Everyone here knows how thick the ice is on the Hudson. What damage happens to the New Hamburg shore when a barge breaks up and displaces large sections of sharp pack ice? Botini's business has expanded greatly these past years, which means that their request for ever-increasing truck traffic is also a request for ever-increasing barge traffic. This is why the town's balanced common sense restrictions are so necessary. If New Hamburg had been laid low like so many other places along the river, perhaps an expanding oil depot wouldn't be such a bad thing. But the clear truth is that New Hamburg is simply not able to offer Botini what it needs, because New Hamburg remains physically and historically what it has always been. A small-scale, defined, narrow street, living example of the heritage that made the Hudson Valley the birthplace of the nation. New Hamburg and its place on the river is a heritage held in common and for the future. A heritage over which no group, no resident, and no business may claim private ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board? Yes. Come on up.
Hi, my name is
Hello.
Stacy Messler, and I am a resident of New Hamburg, although Mark Botini and his attorneys would have you think I am not. I could not help but think of this quote by the poet Rabindranath Tagore when I read the February 5th filing by the Botini Company, and in particular, the affidavit of the company president, Mark Botini. The greed of gain has no time or limit to its capaciousness. Its one object is to produce and consume. It has pity neither for beautiful nature nor for living human beings. It is ruthlessly ready, without a moment's hesitation, to crush beauty and life. In his affidavit, Mark Botini noted that I live on the opposite side of the New Hamburg railroad tracks, and not in a house that is situated on what he calls the preferred truck route. He states that I am a non-resident. He ignores the fact that New Hamburg is a hamlet that was divided in the center by a railroad track. However, New Hamburg is older than the railroad. Mark Botini should look at a map, and his attorneys should check their facts. He noted that only 2 residents on his preferred truck route submitted affidavits. Mark Botini and his attorneys continue to beleaguer this issue with their repeated cry that it is only a handful of residents who are concerned about the change in the use of the facility, the related increased traffic, and 24-hour, 7-day-a-week use of the New Hamburg facility. Mark Botini and his attorneys are willfully ignorant to how the residents of New Hamburg and the hamlet himself are impacted by the Botini Company's changed use of the New Hamburg facility. The fact that Mark Botini decided to expand his company by purchasing additional storage facilities and planned on using New Hamburg as the center of these operations when he never took into account that New Hamburg simply cannot accommodate the business model he has put in place. He never considered the possibility that the residents of New Hamburg would be concerned about these changes, and not just the residents that live on his preferred truck route. Many people who call New Hamburg home are concerned about the dangers the Bottini Company have created on our streets and about the looming destruction to our way of life. Even if the Bottini Company asks the New York court to disregard the existing affidavits filed by New Hamburg residents, they will fail to quell our legitimate safety concerns. There will be many more residents lining up to speak about the impact the new use of the facility has on our community and the dangers created by the increase in truck traffic. I marvel at the blinding greed of Mark Bottini. As in his affidavit, he notes that non-resident Stacy Messler, that's me, makes general remarks about the dangers at the school bus stop, when by her own admission, her children don't even ride the New Hamburg school bus. The trucks travel right through the New Hamburg school bus stops, and even though Mark Bottini and his paid expert witnesses would like to pretend otherwise, there is not enough room on the small streets of New Hamburg for the 18-wheelers to safely negotiate the streets. It is clear from his affidavit that Mark Bottini can't comprehend on any level, neither intellectually nor emotionally, speaking or acting out of concern for someone else's children. It is true, my children do not take the school bus in New Hamburg since they go to a private school. However, many of the children in my community take the school bus, and as hard as it is for Mark Bottini to understand this, I have concern for all the children in my community, and it would be a tragedy for any of them to be hurt. I should also point out that in the Bottini Company filing, they do suggest that the town of Wappingers Falls move the school bus stop to accommodate the Bottini Company's preferred truck route. I have lived in New Hamburg, albeit on the other side of the tracks, since 2009. My family and I used to walk regularly in New Hamburg, including on Mark Bottini's preferred truck route with our children. We walked for fun, we walked to see the river, we walked to church, we walked to the yacht club, and we walked to see our friends. My children also rode their bicycles in New Hamburg, including along Mark Bottini's preferred truck route, and I never used to worry about them being in danger. Mark Bottini has made New Hamburg a dangerous place to walk, ride bicycles, and for children just to simply play. I no longer let my children ride their bicycles in New Hamburg, and we rarely take them walking. But I must conclude that Mark Bottini, based on his own words, doesn't care because these are not his children. Mark Bottini also points out in his affidavit that I am a close friend of Andrea Siago's and that we went to law school together, and therefore I must, he states, by my own words, be biased. However, bias implies a feeling or idea that is unreasonable, and I believe what I actually said was that this issue is very, very personal to me, and it is. The future of New Hamburg is personal to me. Greed and lack of social conscience are threatening my community, the safety of my children, and the children of my neighbors, and yes, my friends. I can't imagine anything more personal. At the heart of the new regulations was an attempt by the town to limit the large truck traffic during the heaviest commuter times and the times when the children are getting on and off the school bus and might be outside playing in New Hamburg. Mark Bottini and his attorneys are trying to cloud the issue by stating that the new laws will actually increase truck traffic in the hamlet. But I am certain that at the heart of their argument is a blind greed ready at a moment's notice to crush beauty and life. What I have here in my hand is a picture of a Bottini 18-wheeler truck making the turn at the school bus stop. And I just would like to give this to the town board to take a look at. It's a time-lapse photo, and the school bus stop is on both sides of the truck, so the children stand here and here. In case anybody here is laughing about our statements about the danger of the trucks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Yes, sir.
My name is Peter Garrity, and I'm one of the new citizens of New Hamburg. I bought my house on Conklin Street, I think 9 years ago. I am so happy with this town. I am so happy with the people in this town. I wish I was anywhere near as prepared and articulate as the two people who just preceded me. I'm in awe of what I didn't have any intention to speak tonight. I just wanted to come and be a witness to this process. But just anecdotally, I was sitting in my kitchen this morning, and I was looking out at the Hudson. I live above the train station, and I was looking out at the Hudson, which is frozen pretty much, and I saw a truck go by, a great big oil truck go by. And then a minute later, I saw another one go by. And then a minute later, I saw another one come in from the opposite direction. And then finally, a fourth. In the time that it took me to finish a cup of coffee, 4 oil trucks went by. 3 of them were Bottini. 1 of them was not, although I have no idea whether it was a company that perhaps subcontracts to Bottini. I have no idea about that. It brought home this whole issue to me of how disruptive to a little town, a hamlet like New Hamburg, those oil trucks are. My children are grown. I don't have little children. I have dogs, corgis. I don't want any of the children that live down at the end of Conklin Street near Channingville, near Main Street. I don't want those 2 children that live on that corner house to be in danger. And I wonder what the reason, what's the process by which Mr. Bottini has disrupted the safety of this town? I mean, what's behind it? You know, he had a depot to bring oil to and to take oil from. But in the course of the last number of years, his business has grown, and he has absorbed other companies, and so his business has grown exponentially, and he still maintains the business through this town of New Hamburg. It's just too big. It's too much. He needs to establish a depot somewhere else to take the pressure off of New Hamburg. And I understand 2 things, and then I'll get out of your hair. One is that I understand that he says, or I say his lawyers say, I'll put that in Mark Bottini's name, but he says that, you know, you've got a railroad there, for God's sakes. That makes a lot of noise and a lot of disruption. Well, it doesn't. Part of the reason why I bought the house that I bought is because it's over a railroad, and I used to hop freight when I was a young man, and I love the sound of a railroad when it comes through. And the fact that a lot of people park there is true. There's a certain time during the late afternoon where there's a lot of traffic going up Route 28, up New Hamburg Road. But that mostly is traffic that escapes through the southern part of that huge parking lot and disappears up. It doesn't run across all of the streets in New Hamburg. It doesn't run across the residential streets as his trucks do. And then lastly, you know, I made a mistake about 7 years ago when I was driving around New Hamburg, and I had only been living here a year or so, and I was actually looking for the Buddhist monastery, and I didn't know where the Buddhist monastery was. And I was driving down Reed Road, and I saw this incredible house, this gigantic house, a football stadium, a football field length away from the road, behind a gigantic outcropping of rock. And I thought, that must be the Buddhist monastery. And the gates were open. And I thought, of course the gates are open. It's a Buddhist monastery. And I drove my old Honda CRV in on the winding road. It took me a minute or so, or 2 minutes to get there. And when I got there, I was attacked by 2 gigantic black dogs. And finally, this guy said, "Come back," called the dogs off, and it was Mr. Bottini. And I said, "I guess this isn't the Buddhist monastery, right?" And he said, "No, it's not the Buddhist monastery. Why don't you turn your car around and get off my property?" And I said, "Fine, excellent, thank you very much." He actually told me where the Buddhist monastery was. My point being that Mr. Bottini lives a football field length away from the road. I don't. My house is about a car and a half, maybe 2-car length from a distance from the road. And a lot of my neighbors have less than that. We live right on these roads where these trucks are passing. They really impact our lives. I bet that his tune would be different if he lived right on the road, you know? If you guys lived right on the road, you would see the danger and the disruption of a really beautiful little American town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Andrea?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Andrea Sayago. I'm a resident of New Hamburg, and I'm here tonight for the same reason that all these other residents of New Hamburg are here. I'm really wanted to come up and talk to you all about just how shocked and appalled I am at the number of the statements that were in the documentation that was recently filed in the lawsuit with the New Hamburg terminal. And, you know, I take great offense when people fabricate information and try to pass it off as the truth, particularly when those people share a profession with myself. I think it's just appalling and unspeakable. But, you know, look, I've made it no secret that I wanted 18-wheelers off the road. That was something that I said to you guys from day one. But I have never once come before you, ever, and said that I want to shut that terminal down. I never, ever said it. And somehow that is my stated goal. He says, in court documents say, it's my stated goal. I'm not quite sure what that is. I've never said it. I don't understand what the point of that is. He's trying to create some sort of, fact pattern that, supports the notion that there's some conspiracy. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no evidence of this statement because I never said it. And it's just offensive to me because he's putting words in my mouth, and I won't allow it. I won't stand for it. And I've never, then there's a lot of things that were said in there that were really offensive to this whole process that I just really take issue with. I've never once come before this town board and tried to induce all of you to act as my prosecutor and to pursue my private interests. Never. I don't understand where this is coming from. I'm not quite sure what his fascination is with me in particular, but I guess because I'm not afraid to speak my mind, I'm not afraid to come up and say that this is wrong. Perhaps maybe that's what it is, that I have a voice and I am inclined to use it. I am really perplexed by the sort of rabid fascination with my being new, and all of a sudden now there's trouble since I've arrived. But it couldn't be further from the truth. And it's been said by numerous residents. But yet still, he persists in this, insistence that I am somehow the cause of all of this, and that there's some sort of political agenda taking place. I'm not quite sure about the statements being political. It's nonsense. I mean, I think the thing that's unhappy, that's making him unhappy is that his political connections have failed him somehow, and that, the town board is actually doing something to protect the residents, and that politics is put aside. It's about resident safety. It's about quality of life. And that's something that is important. And I can't quite understand why he's insisting on this sort of political, I don't know, it's almost like a conspiracy, as if we're all out to get him. I'm not quite sure I know where or why he's insisting upon it, but it's strange to me. And I think that we all can attest to the fact that that is not even close to the reality of what has taken place in this room in terms of all of us coming before all of you with the information that we've provided. It has been above board and with the utmost integrity, and to suggest anything other than that is despicable, in my opinion. I also want to kind of talk about some of the things that he said about the residents and how we should not be taken into account. Our voices don't matter. He wants to disregard our statements. That we gave opinions. But I got to tell you, I looked over. I saw the statement. I went back and I looked at my affidavit. I said, did I give an opinion? I looked at it. No. I never once ever said, this is my opinion. I simply recited the facts as I saw, visually as a witness. You don't need to have any kind of credentials to be an eyewitness. There's no requirements under the law. I have eyes. I think that's what it takes to be an eyewitness. And I have 20/20 vision, so I can see. And I think, I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he's afraid of the truth. Perhaps that's what's bothering him or what's troubling him. But the truth is, the situation is unbearable. It's dangerous, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And the town took reasonable measures. You listened to all of us. You listened to them. It's not as if this all occurred in some back room and handshakes and winks and smiles. No way, not even close. And to suggest otherwise, it's strange. It's really, I don't get it. But the other thing that really bothered me is that this sort of idea that there's this truck route, this preferred truck route, and that only 10 homes were affected. Well, for somebody who lives in New Hamburg, he sure has no idea what the boundaries of his own town are, because the truck route actually impacts far more than 10 homes. If you actually look at the truck route, or even, what are the boundaries of New Hamburg? I mean, you could say, okay, fine, it's New Hamburg Road where the railroad tracks, we come over the Creek Bridge on New Hamburg Road, and it goes all the way, to the west in the Hamlin on the west side of the tracks. But it also keeps going north on Main Street. It potentially past where it intersects with Reed Road. But for the purposes of this, let's say it stops at the top of Reed Road. There are a lot more than 10 houses that are impacted by that truck route. Try 30 directly. Try 9 more who back up to the roads or who are literally through, a few bushes and trees. I don't know where he gets 10 homes. I think cuts it off right at the bridge. But the reason why we were all here is because we care about everyone in New Hamburg, not just the people who live right on the road. Everyone who lives in town, we care about each other. We want our town to be safe for all of us to enjoy, for our children, for our neighbors. People walk, people ride their bikes. It's really a unique and special place. And to sort of pretend like we're all a bunch of crazies making this stuff up because we're out to get him is lunacy. I mean, that's the lunacy. It's like, I still can't wrap my brain around it. It's these sort of claims that, I don't know. And there's so many things that he wrote in there that were just ridiculous. But I think, the paid engineers, these are expert witnesses that, they're paid expert witnesses. Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with what that means. To suggest that New Hamburg's not a quiet and serene place, it's ridiculous. The train comes through, you're right, it does. But guess what? I moved to New Hamburg because of the train. I commute to New York. I like the train. I want it there. The train's noise is not really even that noticeable. It sort of fades into the background. The train doesn't drive down Main Street. The train doesn't, cut around corners and make it dangerous for my kids to wait at the bus stop. No, it doesn't. The train doesn't do any of those things. The train doesn't present dangers to the residents in the same way that this business does. Not even close. And it's really, the train doesn't ignore stop signs. It doesn't back up into intersections and cause everyone to worry, residents to worry about their own personal safety when you're walking on the street. Train doesn't turn into the oncoming lane of traffic in order to make it around a corner. This is my point. The trains, it's a red herring. It's irrelevant. And I don't know, he's trying to make some point about, this is all about noise. I'm not quite sure I understand where this all went, how our own personal safety now is, we're complaining about noise. Irrespective of that fact, the train is not, we never came to you about the train. We never complained about the train. I like the train. I have no issues with it. I have an issue with trucks coming into my neighborhood, driving in front of my house. I don't even let my kids take the bus. And I want you all to know that. I do not let my children ride the bus to school. You want to know why? I don't want them standing out there. I don't trust those drivers. I don't trust it. It's dangerous. I just won't have it. It's ridiculous that I can't let my kids do that. Every time my children go outside and play in the front part of my house, I'm holding my breath. Why? I have no idea what's going to happen. Some truck's going to come down the hill and lose control potentially and go right onto my street, into my yard. It could completely happen. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it's impossible. And that's the thing that's ridiculous, is that this notion that there hasn't been an accident in New Hamburg ever. Well, it's only a matter of time. Keeps ratcheting up the number of trucks that come in. It's only a matter of time. I really, the notion also that this terminal has operated in its current capacity since it was built is a fallacy. It is not true. This terminal was built in the 1950s, and I can assure you that it was not utilized in the same capacity that it is today. In fact, Mark Bottini doesn't utilize the terminal in the same capacity that he did when he purchased it in 1997. In fact, he purchased 10 years after that a number of satellite locations that he sort of expanded his business into what it is today. That expansion took place over a decade afterwards. So it's absurd. And the notion that it's always been this way, it's false. It's not true. The other thing that I think is really important to point out is that they're saying that this insistence, the traffic will be worse when pedestrian traffic is highest. I'm not sure what evidence they have to support that claim. In his own affidavits, he says I have 38 trucks and 7 of them are tractor trailers. Well, if I have 38 trucks, I don't know about, you guys have seen the truck logs that we've produced. I have many more hours of tape, and I've counted, and I can tell you right now, I see 38 trucks easily within, 2 to 3 hours. Easy. Well, what's the difference? How many trucks can he have? I mean, it's he's going to have to buy a fleet, 30 more trucks. Is that what he intends to do to, prove a point, to punish us? It's a little bit vindictive. And I don't know where he's going with that, but it's a little ridiculous because there's no evidence to support, even from his own statements, his own sworn affidavit with the numbers that he provided. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing too that I wanted to kind of get into was
Andrea?
Yeah.
If you generally, I should have probably said this earlier. Generally, there's a 3-minute limit. We've been very lax, but if you could try to, come to a conclusion relatively soon,
Sure.
that'd be great.
All right, here's what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't take an engineer or an expert to see the danger put upon residents of New Hamburg, okay? Common sense dictates that the existing infrastructure in the neighborhood, which was laid out over 150 years ago, is not able to safely accommodate this type of industrial use. The town would have to effectively dismantle New Hamburg in order to accommodate his business safely. That means widen streets, taking people's property you have to do eminent domain. I mean, like those types of things that, are going to have to happen in order for them to do what he suggests, what his engineers are suggesting. Taking out a stop sign that was put into place to prevent people from speeding into town. So their suggestion, which is strange, paid traffic engineers, let's make it more dangerous. I don't get it. Bottom line is that the town has spent enough money defending this ridiculous lawsuit. And the fact that they are throwing out all these things is just, it's offensive and it's ridiculous. And people are fed up. And it's time that these laws are enforced. It's time that we all turn around and say, no, enough of this. And it's enough. We've all had enough. And we appreciate so much that the town has done. We appreciate it, and we are in full support of the laws that were passed. And we really, would like to see the laws enforced as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board?
How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Chris White from White's Marina.
Hi.
I'm manager there. My father and aunt own the place. I wasn't going to speak at this until things were brought up. A lot of things have been happening with the bus stop and people parking on each side of the street to make it hard for Bottini's trucks and our boats coming in. We actually had to cancel a Department of Defense contract, New York State Naval Militia, from coming down to install 2 brand new engines because they're deliberately parking right there so they can't get in. And we had a problem with that the other day. We had to cancel that to get them to come this week, beginning of next week. The yellow lines, I can understand on that as a business. because right now people park in the way of, that corner of people getting in. It's a tight corner, it's very tight. For us to even bring a boat in there, my father could hardly fit his plow truck between two cars the other day. It is a problem, and we have absolutely no problem with White's Marina and our neighbors. And if any of them ever want to talk to us, I'm here, and, they can always talk to us about things that we have going on. But, in the whole problem of the situation, people have to realize it's not only Botini, we are also there. And we've been there for 50-something years. We've had the same amount of traffic. We've had over 200 boats for the past 19 or 20 years so far, when we built up a little bit. So I just want to make sure everybody
I'm not aware,
everybody
what you're
understands
speaking
that.
of, so, just so you know.
Okay. Well, they're mentioning the kids on the bus stop, and
Yeah.
I come through there. I'm there from 7:30 in the morning, 5:30 at night.
Okay.
I see people. I know a lot of the people. I have people who own boats with me that are here tonight.
Okay.
We have no problem with anybody, but it's
Yep,
also,
yep.
problems of taking that street. It's a tight turn.
Mhm,
I got
sure.
a 35-foot naval militia boat, New York State Department of Defense, and they can't get in. We had to cancel that so they could, come another day. These.
So
tight
this is in
turns-
front of your marina?
Well, it's on that corner of Point Street and Main? River? Yeah, River.
No, Main Street.
Main Street. Main Street and Point. That's where the bus stop is, and the kids, and I see them every morning when I pass. I see the kids,
Mhm.
I come down, all the way down Point, and I always, see the kids that are there, people
Mhm.
waiting in cars.
Mhm.
And, they are on both sides of the street, the kids. It's not just one corner that they're standing on, they're standing on two sides. And to make that turn with a boat, it's a pretty tight corner.
Mhm.
So not only for a truck, but also for, our customers, it is, a problem with people
Yeah.
parking right on that corner. So, just so,
Okay, yeah, I mean, obviously keep in touch with Councilman Baisley if, we need to regulate parking by that corner, we can do that. We certainly, don't want to have your business impacted negatively if we can help it, but if there's some way to accommodate, those type of movements for your boats, or if you know when they're going to come in and you can notify us, so, I don't think it's that often that you have something of that size, right?
this time of year is when we do we have 2 Dutchess County Sheriff's boats in with us right now. We
Okay.
have 2 Naval Militia boats in with us right now. We also have DC's coming up with 3 boats next week. So this is when we do all our contract for
Okay.
stuff like that.
Okay,
So-
well, keep in touch with Jay, and if, we can look at that, if there's something we can do there to, help you out, we would definitely will.
And for any of the New Hamburg people, we're here if you guys ever want to talk to us. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir, come on up.
I could have come up with him.
Yeah, that's okay. I
Greg
noticed
White.
his shirt, so I assume you're
Greg
with
White,
him.
White's Marina. I just want to make a few points that the New Hamburg people did make. They talk about the roads. They're not wide enough. Mr. Cullen said it right there. They're not wide enough. They're very narrow roads. You're right. New Hamburg, was built back in the day. The roads are very small. The roads aren't meant to, like my brother said, you had 2 cars, a Jeep and another car parked on both sides of the road. The one car was parked the wrong way on the road. I have a big Suburban. I couldn't even get through. My mirrors are sticking out. The roads are short or small. On top of that, where the yield sign is as you come down the road, maybe it should be turned into a stop sign where the school bus is. People are yielding. Yield means give the right of way to another. You're coming down that road, you're yielding, the school bus stops right there. Put a stop sign in, it forces the traffic to slow down. New Hamburg also talks about the train. They say, we don't mind the train. We don't either, don't get me wrong. It's the commuters in the morning. Commuters fly through there, So it's not just trucks. We see it in the mornings. You got commuters flying through there. Put a stop sign there. Put a stop sign before the corner so they have to stop. It slows some stuff down. It helps out the traffic. Might be something to look into.
Sure.
Other than that, I just wanted to bring those couple things up.
Okay, yeah,
All right?
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Jim, do you have anything for us?
No.
All right, so that brings us to, as I said, the end of our agenda. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Town board adjourns at 8:43 PM. If there's any students here and you need anything signed, come on up.